factor. Okay.
My title is compliance specialist, and I'm responsible pretty much what he shared to make sure that all the compliances for which we're responsible are met. Today, for instance, I met with one of our suppliers, a client. We produce a CNC graph for him. So every year, every other year, they send an auditor. They go through all the regulations just to make sure that we're following them. And every auditor we get dives into a different aspect of our business. So today, after he made his sightings, he cited, this just happened. He had a suggestion for improvement, and he cited a medical device regulation. And community tissue services products are not yet medical devices, they're biologics. And they're under a different set of regulations. So I told him, I said, great idea. I think we should do it. I think everybody in QRA would agree we should do it, but we aren't required to do it. So he might want to write up his report a little bit differently. It's a good practice. It's a GTP. It's a good tissue manufacturing practice. It's not, however, a requirement. So that caught my eye. That just happened about 30 minutes ago. So beyond that, there are about 30, give or take, licensures that we must maintain, different states across the country, overseas, Canada, and we're required to fill out applications every year and submit them. It basically proves that we're compliant under, there are a few regulations that are unique to various states, just very different bureaucracies. So when we fill out those applications, most of the time they're linear to the regulations, and we give some objective evidence that we are in fact compliant. So much of what I do, much like my titles, to prove to everyone legitimately and with objective evidence that we are remaining compliant. With that said, one of our greatest challenges is the FDA is so huge, as you can imagine, that they offer all these regulations. I mean, the book I held up is just a reference book. That's by no means all the regulations. Plus, AATB, I'm sure you guys have talked about that, the American Association of Tissue Banks, has their regulations, which are more stringent than anything the FDA offers us. However, the FDA tells us you must do this, and you must do this, and you must do these 600 other things, but we don't care how you achieve it. Which is really interesting, because when you get audited and they say, we told you had to do this and we told you had to do that, but maybe that particular auditor doesn't like the way we achieved it. So we have to give tons of objective evidence in our justification. So absolutely, and I'm sure you've said this a million times, everything we do is documented and verified and validated. Yep.
So if the federales and everyone else don't give you this much trouble, do they at least give you any funding?
Funding?
Anything?
Absolutely not.
I'm surprised there.
Yeah.
They just allow you to
not
stay
at all.
open.
Right. And I think, the FDA is in a lot of trouble right now, for instance, with the steroid shots. And,
Oh, yes.
this is huge. So you
So they're
get
cracking them
some
down.
idea with what you read and what you learn about. They're pulled thin, just like so many other government agencies, which is another reason why they could say this CFR is going to tell you, make sure you achieve this. But they're not going to go to every facility and tell you how to achieve it. That's also not going to keep them from coming back from the next audit and saying, well, Joe liked it, but Sandy doesn't. So we have a constant, it's very bureaucratic in
We
that
change
regard.
things a lot around here constantly.
Constant change. That's, it is something definitely about our work environment. I agree. And it's for those reasons. And it is tricky between compliance and production, because these guys are so meticulous in what they do and how they do it, but compliance is always throwing, you did it great, we're doing it, now we're doing it this way. And we're not always good about saying why. I just had an audit and this guy's demanding that this is done, for example. And we take their SOPs and we mess them up and we change them and we send them through, and now they're doing it differently. They were doing it the way we told them to, but for all of these audits, we've learned there's something we need to do differently. It's a challenge. It's a real challenge.
We'll have a standard operating procedure come out 1 week, and like Jane said, we'll have an auditor come through and they say, I really don't like this about this process, and they'll go down, they'll run on the list of their form, and then that will come down the line back to us and processing, and we'll go, well, now, even though you guys read it and we agreed to do it this way, now we're going to change it 2 weeks later, and we need you guys all to validate this, sign off on it, and we're going to start it up this new way. So it happens a lot where one process goes in, sometimes within weeks apart, sometimes a couple months or a year, and it always ends up changing. So you learn something, and then you have to relearn it a different way. So.
That's,
And like, and we're so bad about saying why. We just send the change
That's
through.
always my question, why?
Yeah, what was the
it always
why?
helps when you have the reasoning behind it, but sometimes you don't always
I
get
agree.
it.
You tend to throw it in the hopper, let it go through the queue.
Are those the SOPs?
But SOPs, okay. I'll show
Got
you
it.
guys.
Just to show the extent.
Thank
of,
you guys. Thank you, Jane.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and then
Enjoy yourself.
these are SOPs. Now, if you say, well, that's not that many. This is just the SOPs for this department. So we have all of this here. This is just for one department. And then we have, this is for a different department here. No, that's donor files. Those are donor files. And so a lot of these have actually been moved down because we literally used to have a bookshelf about yay wide, floor to about this high, full of SOPs. A lot of these have now been moved over digitally. They are retained in other places, but a lot of the stuff we deal with on a daily basis is stored right here. And then we also have digital copies that we can pull up on computers in the clean room. So
Do you guys ever reference them?
yes,
You do?
constantly.
Really?
About on a daily basis.
Really?
I reference them because you learn. I've been here about 5 years now, and I might have learned something one way, and I go, you know what? It's been a couple months since I've dealt with this graph, and I go, I remember doing it this way, but I'm not sure. And I'll go and I'll look it up, and sure enough, yes, it's changed. And sure enough, I even signed it that I read it, but I don't remember, because things change so often. You go, I remember this and I remember this, but it's changed to this. So, and a lot of times, yes, we do reference them constantly through a daily basis. I'm trying to think if there's anything.